If you look over social media or try to have a conversation with someone related to Crackdown 3, it doesn't take long until people want to dogpile on it. I saw a lot of this around the release of the game, with many sites giving the game lower scores and people just saying that it's just bad. I planned on playing this game at some point this year, but with all the negative press, it started to intrigue me. Is this game really that bad? Because when you discuss a game online, it's either the best thing ever or it's the worst thing ever. Many games usually fall somewhere in the middle, with having enjoyable elements with some flaws. But this also depends on people's different tastes and preferences that they have with games. So with all the negative press and some of my friends saying that this game was fun, I had to try it. I instantly started having fun with the game right when I got into it.
Getting some crazy signal here. An experimental weapon of some kind?
Whatever it is, we can't leave it in the hands of Terra Nova. Find it and commandeer it, Agent.
Well, the focus of this game is most certainly on its gameplay. The beginning cutscene does a good job at grabbing your attention and setting up the conflict. Terry Crews takes the cheesy and silly dialogue and adds his charm to it. Essentially, the story boils down to you taking on a city of organized crime and helping the people that live there. Simple enough story that gives you an excuse to run around an open environment. I do think the game could have used more personality when it came to its villains and the agents you choose. There is some effort made with the villains being more talkative within their own individual missions. While this stuff is good, I do think there's something else missing to be able to really make these characters pop more. There are plenty of agents for you to choose from, but I really wish they were more expressive during the gameplay. Maybe having some fun catchphrases or one-liners, or even banter back and forth between the people back at home base. I do feel like Terry Crews was underused within this game. He is a very funny and charismatic actor. I think better writing would have helped to allow him to show this off more within the game. Plus it would have fit the tone, as Crackdown 3 isn't a dark and grim game, but rather a light and fun one.
We are diving head first into a viper's nest. But I promise you this, come tomorrow, we're all gonna be walking around wearing shiny snake skin boots.
But the meat and potatoes of the game is the gameplay. So the game puts you into an open world, gives you several head guys you need to take out, and that's it. You'll spend your next several hours shooting, jumping, punching, and blowing up everything you see. The traversal is something I really enjoyed here. At the start, you can only do a high jump with the ability to grab onto ledges to help you get up higher. As you are going about the map, you can collect these agility orbs, and with enough of them, you'll be able to improve your jumping skill. The first upgrade gives you a nice jetpack boost, and then the next one after that will give you a boost forward. It doesn't take long to improve your jumping and traversal, and I found it rewarding. Since you start the game off with just the jump, you really appreciate the improvements you earn throughout finding those orbs. And this just continues throughout the experience. Since the movement is loose, it can get annoying to climb up or jump onto specific but small places. You may find yourself getting caught on the indentations of buildings, and with the fast movement speed, you might fly off a structure you didn't really mean to fall off of. While these situations are annoying, I did like how the platforming took an older but hands-on approach to it. In many modern games, the developers aim to streamline traversal by having a parkour button, and you can just hold that down and then point in the direction you want to go. I'm perfectly fine with this use of traversal, but Crackdown opted to have something that requires more input, and to have it be less automatic. And while it can be frustrating in some situations while climbing, it's really satisfying when you get to the place you want to get to. The jumps give you that superhero feeling of power and are continually fun to do. So much so that I really avoided using the cars and really just preferred to do the jumping. Moving throughout the city and trying to find all these agility orbs and hidden orb stashes is really addicting. It's kind of like grabbing coins in Mario if those coins provided you with experience points to enhance your movement. I do like that these are not collectibles for the sake of having collectibles, but rather they give you some type of tangible reward within the game. You feel like you will find one every time you turn a corner or jump onto a new roof. Like many of you know, traversal is one of the most important elements in an open world game. If it's bad, it can drag down the entire experience. I feel like the jumping helps to bring up the experience here. The driving is an area that does feel off and not as fun as the jumping. I think part of the problem with the driving is that it regulates you to the ground and doesn't allow for the same freedom that the jumping does. Though there is a car that allows you to drive up buildings, which is neat, and then there are some really fun tanks you can drive, but outside of those, I didn't really use the vehicles. I do think that this is an area that I hope they would continue to improve upon for the 4th game. But when you're not moving throughout the map, you'll be within combat. Combat takes up a huge part of the game. Crackdown 3 gives you a nice variety of weapons and avenues to take out your foes. There's a large focus on the shooting. The variety of guns is also really appreciated. You get everything from traditional weapons like machine guns, shotguns, and grenade launchers to ice shotguns, acid shooting weapons, and plasma shooting weapons. The aiming is a bit different than you would expect, but very familiar to the people that have played the prior Crackdown games. The game uses a lock-on system for aiming. Some say this is old and hurts the experience. I'm honestly fine with how this works within the game. Your movement speed is very fast and floaty, and now add in the ability to jump really high and then mix in the chaos with the enemies, and you'll really appreciate the lock-on. The lock-on allows you to snap to the enemy you're looking at. You can choose where on their body you want to hit too as well. Overall, the shooting is good and I like the variety in your arsenal. You'll even get support equipment that you can use as well, like a variety of grenades and even one that allows you to heal. Blowing stuff up is great and satisfying too. You do get the option to grab debris and objects throughout the environment and throw them at people. I really like this aspect since it adds to the improvised nature that a superhuman would be in if they ran out of ammo. Plus, it's just downright awesome to throw a lot of these large objects at people. The melee is simplistic and entertaining, and an option for more combos would have been more appreciated, but what it has here is decent, but nothing special. All of these systems do work well together to form an entertaining experience while you're in combat. What adds to this is how you regain health. As you kill enemies, you will earn orbs, and those orbs will give you health. It creates a flow where you are rewarded for staying in combat and fighting efficiently as possible. With many third-person shooters being stop and pop experiences, I like how Crackdown wants you right in the middle of the action. A cover system in Crackdown just wouldn't have worked, and you really wouldn't have used it much, especially with the high movement speed and the ability to jump so high. While the game is delightfully mindless, I do like how in the thick of some of the later combat encounters, you will really want to keep an eye out for the enemies that are easy to defeat to be able to get some of that health where you're taking out an army of foes. The dance of defeating enemies and earning health is really fun. The open world is set up like any other open world game. You have a bunch of side missions that you can do. Once you complete a set of them, you'll unlock a boss and then you go defeat them. The leaders you face off against have their own more focused levels, and it's a nice combination of jumping and shooting. The performance for the game was mostly solid with a stable frame rate. Only a few spots towards the end did I notice a dip in frames. I was also impressed with how many enemies there were on screen. The visuals themselves aren't really anything special during the day, but when the game turns to night, I feel like the visuals pop more and create a better experience. One minor annoyance I ran into with the combat was how chaotic it was at times, because sometimes I would get shot from someone but I couldn't tell who was shooting me. Though, those were minor annoyances, and overall, I found Crackdown 3 to be very enjoyable. I honestly do not understand the low scores and the bashing like hate I've seen for this game. It makes it seem like now it's the cool thing to hate on Xbox exclusives. I completely understand that the system is hurting for more exclusives, and while there are a nice handful of Xbox only games, I do think next generation they're gonna do a better job at releasing more. To be clear, I'm perfectly fine if you disagree with me on this game, but what I really don't care for is the bashing from either side. I found Crackdown 3 to be a fun experience. It does have some flaws, but it does provide an enjoyable game that you can enjoy with friends. I see Crackdown 3 like getting together with some friends, you're hanging out, eating some pizza, and having a good time. I also understand that some might be frustrated by the marketing and the delays that this game went through. I try to separate the marketing from the game so that I can go into an experience as blind as possible. This way I can assess the game on its own. Marketing can be tricky since their job is to just get us to buy their game, and sometimes they stretch the truth to do so. I feel like that's more of a fault in marketing rather than the game itself. Crackdown 3 as it stands is a brisk and fun open world game that delivers consistent over-the-top action with plenty of good explosions. You can play the campaign in co-op, and that only makes it better. Crackdown 3 is an enjoyable Xbox exclusive that is worth your time.